your brain. And so we're going to dive right in. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping when John finishes, but he's going to come in and give us a little bit of exercise. So John, tell them what they need to prepare for your exercise demo.
Hey, today, remember, you need a very comfortable, sturdy chair. Next, if you have any canned goods or water bottles, you need them today. Because I'm going to show you how to massage yourself and also get that cardio. And trust me, we never leave without abs.
Yes. All right. So now's your time to get your sturdy chair, your water bottle, or your handheld weights. We're going to have a really quick demonstration with John, and then Dr. Parker is going to come on and just give you an update about just our current state in our research mission. And then you're going to hear from Todd White. He's going to present our lineup of speakers. You're going to hear about glaucoma today, menopause, exercise, and vision, and they're going to tie it all in with cognition. So again, thank you all for joining us. Welcome. John, get us moving this afternoon.
Great. First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the Emory Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, where we do this every Tuesday. So get your chair. In 5 seconds, we're ready to start. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We make sure we warm up. Come on. A little vibration. Let's go. I need no hips right now. We just warming up. Come on. Right here. Let's get these hands straight. Come on. Add that upper body in. Bring it back now. I need you to go wide. Here we go. All right. Uh-oh, I'm having a little difficulty. Wait 1 minute. All right, if you have a tennis ball or a can or a water bottle, you can use either one. I'm gonna use the can good. Today, I need you to just rub. We're rubbing those thighs. Good. The side is different part, the outer quad. There we go. I'm gonna use the ball on the other one. Good. Let's get the inner quad, inner thighs. Right here. Good. Good. If you have any shin, if you have any calf problems, we're gonna go to outer part of the calf, lower part of the Achilles, higher part of the Achilles. There you go. Let's go to the middle. Good. For the shin, let's go to the outside and rub. There we go. Let's go to inside of the calf and shin. Good. Let's go to the other side. I'm using my ball on this side. Outer, middle. Inner. There you go. All right, let's get the hips. Right here on both sides of the hips, near the glutes, and rub. There we go. We also getting a little bit of shoulder workout as well. Great. Here we go. Right here on the upper chest, in between the shoulder blade, we're gonna go right in between and rub. Right in the higher chest. There you go. Good. Let's do the other side. Right here and go. Great. Right in the trap area. I'm here and I start rubbing. Head down a little bit. It's really that outside of the neck and traps. Good. Other side. Good. All right. I want the hands. Right in the hands. In the middle of the hands, you're stimulating it. You're stimulating. Good. Right here under the hand, in the forearm. There we go. Any carpal tunnel, we're getting that blood flow. Any knots. There we go. Other side. Come on, rub, 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 rub. And good. All right. Here we go. Let's get these abs. Right leg straight. I want you to spell your first name. Spell your first name with your leg. Here we go. Mine is John. J O H and N. I'll let you finish. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Other leg. J O H and N. Good. We're gonna do spell Emory with both legs. Y'all ready? E M O R Y. Good. All right. We're gonna spell center with your right leg. Capital letters. Ready? C E N T E R. Good. Other leg. Center. C E N T E R. Good. All right. Last one. Both legs, small letters. Research. Y'all ready? R E S E A R C H. Great job. Now let me get these side obliques. Right here, feet wide. Feet wide. And left to right. There we go. Lean forward. We're getting those side obliques, but we are working those muscles in the lower back. Forward some more. Great job. Elbows up and twist. Thumbs up higher. And high, side. There we go. Good. Great job. All right. We're about to finish you off with cardio. Here we go. 10 seconds left. 10 seconds. Here we go. Can I get that upper body? Come on. Come on. Hey. Get him up. Get him up. Get him up. Come on. Come on. Watch. Come on. Give me that waistline. Watch. 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 Good. 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 Right in the middle. I know y'all ain't been seeing jumping jacks in a while. Come on. Go, go, go. 5, 4, come on. 3, 2, and 1. Great job. Every week we have a treat for you. Yes, we went a little slow and real technical because we got to make sure we keep, this is our temple. So always do something for your temple. I'm John Lewis, and see you later. Bye.
All right. Thank you, John. Give me a J. O H N. Yes. Every week we get you moving. And thanks to John, we have our energy up and we're ready to dive into all this great content today. You are in for a treat. We have some esteemed scientists with us today. Dr. Parker is going to talk about our research mission, and then Todd White is going to come on and introduce our panelists. Okay. All right. Hey, Dr. Parker, how are you?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Today we have 163 people. It's not as much as we usually have, but we need more. So let me help you understand what we do here at the Goizueta Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. We are not only a treatment center for, I should say, the Emory Goizueta Alzheimer's Disease Research Center is one of more than 27 sites in the country that specialize in the evaluation, assessment, and research involving Alzheimer's and related dementias. We are the only one in the state of Georgia. So right now, our research is focused on what we can do to forestall or put off Alzheimer's disease. We're finding now that Alzheimer's is not a disease that just starts when you get to be old. It's something that's really more of a life course disease, which means that things that we do, early in life will affect what happens to our brain later on. So that's why we emphasize things that you can do to keep yourself healthy. That's why we do the exercise, and we keep reinforcing that, because exercise is one of those things that helps maintain brain blood flow and all overall function. Here at the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, we do have treatment trials or interventional drugs maybe that can be used to actually treat Alzheimer's and stop the progression to full-blown dementia. Research previously had been done on people who had been well advanced in the disease, and a lot of those medications weren't very effective. So right now we're looking at our Alzheimer's Disease Research Center wants people who are healthy so that we can get a better understanding of what may trigger a change in somebody's cognitive function. So we do a lot that promotes health. We tell you a lot about that, and we encourage you to enroll in our Emory Healthy Aging Study, simply so that we can better understand how dementia progresses, and more importantly, how it develops and what we might be able to do to put it off. Drug trials are for those people who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or related dementia, and they meet certain criteria. Everybody who wants to be involved in research is not necessarily going to be able to be a part of any drug trial. So you're going to hear from several people today who are conducting different kinds of research that have to do with brain function and health in general. You're also going to hear from Whit Morgan, who's going to talk to you about the Emory Healthy Aging Study, which is going to be our longitudinal study for the study of healthy aging, and some segment of that population that's in the Emory Healthy Aging Study will be a part of the Emory brain study. So those people are going to come in, and not only are we going to ask them questions about their lifestyle, but we're going to get a brain MRI, and we're going to probably do a lumbar puncture. And every year you're going to come back for some questionnaires. More importantly, and overall, we're going to feature those investigators or scientists, whether they're physician scientists or PhD scientists, and they're going to share with you the work that they're involved in and how you can help them with their studies. So at this time, I'd like to have Mr. Todd White, I believe his name is, introduce the Center for Visual and Neurocognitive Rehabilitation that is headquartered at the VA. A lot of the researchers and a lot of the medical doctors and faculty at the VA are actually Emory University faculty professors. So at this time, I'll introduce you and turn the rest of this program over to the Atlanta CVNR team. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. As Monica said, my name is Todd White. I am a research biologist at the Atlanta VA, and I'm also an assistant professor at Morehouse School of Medicine. And I bring you greetings from the Atlanta VA healthcare system, rehabilitation, research and development, Center for Visual and Neurocognitive Rehab, or CVNR. And right, so the CVNR is one of 13 R&D centers in the nation. And our mission is to improve veteran health and the quality of life in visual and cognitive disorders by engaging an alliance of researchers and clinicians to advance evidence-based rehabilitation. We have 4 academic affiliations: Georgia State University, Emory University, Morehouse School of Medicine, and Georgia Tech. Inside the CVNR, we have 5 cores, and those cores are neuroimaging, molecular biology, physical exercise, the administrative core, and the connectivity core. And the types of studies that we run at the CVNR include exercise studies, brain studies, and we also have a participant registry. Just briefly, the exercise studies include partner dance, which is Parkinson's disease, and that's to look at motor and improving motor and cognitive function. Aerobic exercise for older adults to improve cardiovascular function and cognitive function. We also have brain studies looking at aphasia treatment and recovery. It includes brain imaging and non-invasive brain stimulation. Spatial neglect treatment. We look at aging with non-invasive brain stimulation, and fibromyalgia treatment with brain imaging and non-invasive brain stimulation. In the CVNR participant registry, this is a way that people can get involved in the research going on at the CVNR. And if you go to the website, you can find out how to join the registry and volunteer for research projects. And hopefully we can help fellow veterans and improve the health through research. You can visit our website at www.varrd.emory.edu, and you'll be able to see all that's going on at the CVNR, and our telephone number is there. And then finally, our speakers for today. So first up is going to be Andrew Feola, and his talk is Menopause and Glaucoma. Dr. Feola is an investigator at the Atlanta VA CVNR and a researcher in the Joint Department of Biomedical Engineering at Georgia Institute of Technology and Emory University. His research focuses on understanding eye diseases such as glaucoma from a woman's health perspective. Next up, we'll have Rachael Allen, and her talk is The Eye as a Window to the Brain in Diabetes. Dr. Allen is an investigator at the Atlanta VA CVNR. Her research focuses on the eye as a window to the brain in diseases like diabetes, traumatic brain injury, and Alzheimer's disease. And then finally, Dr. Jeff Boatright. His talk is titled Exercise and Vision. And Dr. Boatright is also an investigator at the Atlanta VA CVNR and a professor at the Emory Eye Center who develops new therapies for eye diseases such as glaucoma and age-related macular degeneration. Thank you for having us, and here is Dr. Feola.
Oops, thank you, Todd. Am I in control now? Or no? Oh, yes. All right, so today we're just going to give a quick talk about my research, which is in menopause and glaucoma. So glaucoma, for those of you who don't know, is the leading cause of irreversible blindness worldwide, and affects roughly 75 million people. There we go. Now I see the control. So it's actually a group of various conditions that cause blindness, and they're characterized by a loss of peripheral vision. So in normal vision here on the bottom left, you can see basically your normal range, but in glaucoma, you kind of start to lose that peripheral vision, and it kind of comes inward, and you might not notice until you're very far along in the disease progression. So as Todd mentioned, I study glaucoma from a women's health perspective. And the reason I do this is for several reasons. One, it's an understudied and underrepresented population in glaucoma, but also there's 60% of the glaucoma population is female patients. And when we consider diseases, aging is largely associated with the disease development, but menopause is a major life event for women, and especially aging women. And as far as we know, 100% of women that age have gone through menopause at some point. And just to give a little background of what menopause is from a very basic perspective, menopause is basically 12 months without menstruation. So 12 months from the last period. It typically occurs at the age of 51 years, and 6,000 women a day in the United States become postmenopausal. And this equates to roughly over 2 million women each year entering this menopausal state. And we know menopause affects tissues throughout the entire body. It affects cognitive function, hair. It affects thermal regulation, like how your body regulates the temperature. It affects heart health, pelvic floor health, and bone. It's very associated with bone and cartilage degeneration. So we know menopause affects tissues throughout the entire body. And so what my research is trying to better understand is how menopause affects the eye, and specifically risks for developing glaucoma. So a lot of research has come out in patients has shown that eye pressure, or intraocular pressure, IOP, so the pressure inside the eye, is a major causal risk factor for developing glaucoma. So you can see here a risk of developing glaucoma versus your pressure inside the eye. And as you kind of increase pressure, there's kind of these tiers where you can get really high risks for developing glaucoma at high intraocular pressures. And what recent studies have shown is that menopause, again, a major life event for women, causes small increases in eye pressure, so this intraocular pressure. And while they might be small, if you have small increases in intraocular pressure, you can actually lead to twice the risk of developing glaucoma, depending on your starting intraocular pressure, or even a 10 times increase of developing glaucoma. So even though they can be small, they might be significant for these females after menopause. And other research has actually recently come out and shown that menopause is associated with glaucoma in terms of when a woman enters menopause. So women who actually enter menopause earlier are associated with twice the risk of developing glaucoma, while women who enter menopause much later in life, so after 55 years of age, are at half the risk of developing glaucoma. There's other things associated with menopause and estrogen signaling in terms of mutations in receptors and genetic mutations as well, but we won't get into that today. So some factors associated with the glaucoma that we know are how easily fluid exits the eye. So this is called outflow resistance, and increased outflow resistance is observed in patients with glaucoma. Another thing associated with glaucoma is the tissue mechanical properties or stiffness of the eye. So how hard it is to stretch the eye is associated with developing glaucoma. So what we do as basic scientists, in a way, is we use preclinical models, and we wanted to understand if menopause affects these factors associated with glaucoma. This is kind of the beginning steps to understanding the association with menopause and glaucoma. So what we did is we took eye measurements, we took animal models, and we did surgical menopause called an ovarectomy. Then what we can do is actually take weekly eye pressure measurements, so we can track the animals longitudinally over time. And then at the end, what we can do is we can assess how easily fluid flows out of the eye by measuring outflow resistance and eye stiffness after 8 weeks. So we kind of take all these three types or 4 types of measurements, intraocular pressure, outflow resistance, and eye stiffness. And so just looking at a very basic level, we found that surgical menopause, so these are just measuring animals that were premenopausal to those that were postmenopausal. We found that there was a 2 millimeter increase in intraocular pressure after surgical menopause. And that's actually shown here. So this is a histogram. So the spread of eye pressures in them measured over 8 weeks. And you see there's a little bit of a shift here in the overrectomized group, indicating that they had a higher pressure inside the eye. And again, this 2 millimeters of mercury may seem very small, but that's actually the level measured in the clinical population of postmenopausal women, where they measure between a 1 and 3 millimeter of mercury increase in eye pressure after menopause. So it's very similar to that. We also found that surgical menopause increased outflow resistance. So here we have outflow resistance on the y-axis, and we have our 2 groups. We looked at sham and surgical menopause animals here. And we found that outflow resistance increased after menopause. Again, this means that it's harder for the fluid to flow out of the eye, which actually correlates really well with the fact that there's an increase in intraocular pressure or an increase in eye pressure. So then we measure the stiffness, and actually stiffness varies as a function of pressure. You can imagine if you're blowing up a balloon, right? It might start easier, but as you blow it up, it actually gets harder and harder to continuously blow. And that's what you see here is stiffness increases as pressure increases. So as you're pushing more air into the balloon, it gets harder to stretch. And as an engineer, what we do is we like to model these equations. So we don't care about what this actually is, but we can just create an equation to model it. And then what we can do is we can determine a stiffness at a specific pressure based on this equation. So we can look at the pressure that's measured inside the animal and find the stiffness of the tissue at that specific pressure. And what we found again is that surgical menopause led to a significant decrease in eye stiffness. So here we have eye stiffness on the y-axis versus control and surgical menopause animals here. And you see there's a significant decrease in stiffness. And this occurred across different age groups. So we did it in young and aged animals. So that's pretty relatively interesting. So overall, we found that surgical menopause influences parameters associated with glaucoma. It in fact impacts eye pressure. It affects fluid outflow, and it modulates tissue mechanical properties. So here, I guess all we're trying to do is point to the fact that menopause, a major life event for women, has been shown to affect many tissues and throughout the body, but we're also hoping to incorporate it. It's important into ocular health or eye health and glaucoma as well. So with that, I will pass it over to Dr. Rachael Allen, who will talk to you about the eye as the window to the brain.
Hi, oops, progress the slide. I'm Rachael Allen, and I'll be talking to you about the eye as a window to the brain in diabetes. And that's really the whole focus of my lab, is using the eye and visual function and the retina to tell us more about what's going on in diseases that affect the brain or the whole body system. And some of those diseases are ones that you might expect to affect the eye or to have changes in vision, like stroke or diabetes or multiple sclerosis. But other diseases you may have no idea affect your eyes. So things like traumatic brain injury, Parkinson's disease, schizophrenia, autism, and Alzheimer's disease. But today I'll be talking to you about diabetes. So just to give you a little background, these are the county level estimates of diabetes in adults over the age of 20 in the United States. And the yellow or light areas on the map are areas with low incidence of diabetes. And then the orange or red areas of the map are areas that have higher rates of diabetes. And this is 2004, and this is 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009. So you can see that diabetes is a very serious issue and that it's increasing with time, especially in this area of the country that we live in that some people like to call the stroke belt. And then one of the most common complications with diabetes is diabetic retinopathy. So about 20% of people who have diabetes have diabetic retinopathy. So they have changes in their vision, changes in the blood vessels in their retinas, and that's about 76.4 million adults that have that. And that number is estimated to more than double by 2050. In addition to the retina, we also see changes in the brain with diabetes and in cognition. So the changes in the blood vessels that happen in the eye happen in the brain as well. They may be the cause of the cognitive deficits that we see in patients with diabetes. And the changes that happen in the eye may be connected to the changes that are happening in the brain. So the ischemia and cognitive deficits, cortical atrophy, and accelerated cognitive decline with age. So my goal here was to look at when retinal and cognitive and metabolic deficits happen in diabetes in an animal model. And so I'm using this Goto-Kakizaki rat model of type 2 diabetes. And 90 to 95% of people with diabetes have type 2 diabetes. So that's why it was really important for me to look in a type 2 model. And this model is a non-obese model. It's polygenic, which just means that there's more than one gene involved. And it's spontaneously occurring. So that just means like I don't inject an animal and give it diabetes. These animals develop diabetes on their own. And you might be wondering how that happens. Like how do you find a rat that just develops diabetes? So what they did is they did a glucose tolerance test, and I'll talk a little more about that later. And they took the rats that had the worst glucose tolerance and they bred them together, and they did that again and again and again and again, a lot of times until they ended up with these rats that just naturally develop diabetes when they're only 2 to 4 weeks old. So that's like a teenage rat. They get mild hyperglycemia and insulin resistance. It's not severe hyperglycemia, so we don't have to give them insulin. So our methods were to look at glucose tolerance tests in these rats as a measure of metabolic function, to look at the electroretinogram. That's where we flash lights at the retina and then record the response. And that's our measure of retinal function. And then we looked at Y-maze as our measure of cognitive function. And when we did this, I don't know if you've taken a glucose tolerance test, but you have to drink this really nasty sugary orange cola. I've taken one before. And then the doctor will take your blood glucose at various time points after that. And we do pretty much the same thing in the rats. And so our control rats are these 3 blue lines here. They're the different time points. And you can see that at the 0 time point, before they've had this sugar solution, all the animals have pretty low blood glucose, and that once they've had it, everybody has a blood glucose spike, even the control animals. But you can see that the control animals have less of a spike and that theirs recovers a lot more quickly. And you can see that the diabetic animals at 1 month here in that light pink, 2 months in orange, or 8 months, even at 1 month, they have a difference. And over time, that difference grows bigger and they're doing worse over time. So, but the main point of this slide is that the animals definitely have diabetes. And then when we look at their retinal function, so we flash flickering light at their eyes and it makes this characteristic waveform response. And when we quantify that, we see that compared to the controls in blue, the diabetic animals in orange show a delay in how fast their retinas respond to those flashes of light. And it starts, we observed it at 1 month, and it persists all the way out to 8 months. And this is really similar to changes that we see in people with diabetes when we look at their retinas in response to light flashes too. Then we did a Y-maze test to look at cognitive function. So in this test, we put the animal in the maze and they can just roam around for 8 minutes. And we track the number of times they go into an arm, and that's just, we call that exploratory behavior, but it's a measure of how much they feel like moving around. And then we also track what we call spatial alternation. And so that's like the number of times they'll do a correct alternation, like B, C, A, or A, C, B. And an animal that does more of those alternations is more cognitively intact than an animal that, say, like runs back and forth between arms B and C, but kind of doesn't notice the arm A exists. So when we look at those tests, we find that compared to our controls in blue, our diabetic animals in orange show a deficit in their cognitive function starting at 6 months of age. And when we look at exploratory behavior, so how much they want to move around, compared to our controls in blue, our diabetic animals show a difference starting at 2 months of age. And when we put all of this together, we see that the first thing that we notice is at a few weeks of age, the hyperglycemia or the diabetes, which makes sense that that's the first thing. But then after that, the first change that we see is in the retina. The retina changes at 1 month, and then the exploratory behavior changes at 2 months, and the cognitive function at 6 months. And we're really excited about that, because if the retina changes, if we can catch the retina changing first, maybe we could give treatment earlier, like at the very first sign of a retinal change, and maybe we could give a treatment that prevents the cognitive changes or the later stage retinal vascular changes from even happening. And so our goal is to bring this to people and to identify like a same early window in people so that we could give treatments earlier to our veterans with diabetes. And that is it for me. Thank you so much for having me. And Jeff Boatright is up next.
Oh, before we move on, Dr. Allen and Dr. Feola, you talked about, I'm going to get back to Dr. Feola, for women and menopause. What is it about menopause that makes women more susceptible to glaucoma? And what can, many of our women are likely menopausal, but what can we do to make it less likely that we have glaucoma?
So I think it's important to note that I don't think women are more at risk for glaucoma than men necessarily on an individual basis. I think menopause is a sex-specific risk factor for developing glaucoma, and that things change during menopause to make women more at risk. And two of the things that we're looking at, again, is what I was trying to show, is we look at factors that we know are related to glaucoma. This is a relatively new area of research, so not a lot of work has been done on it. So our goal right now is to really establish the connection between menopause and things that are related to developing glaucoma, such as how fluid can flow out of the eye, or the pressure inside the eye, and the stiffness of the eye itself. So those are kind of like the initial steps to indicate menopause affects these things that are associated with glaucoma. And now we need to go a bit deeper and understand how they might be related to developing glaucoma in the long term.
Is blood pressure related to that at all?
So there's a belief that blood pressure and glaucoma are related, and menopause does affect blood pressure. So there's some possibility that that's related. I think the amount that menopause affects blood pressure is not likely the major culprit or problem there, but it probably likely plays some role.
Dr. Allen, with respect to diabetes, what would you advise our listeners to be aware of?
Definitely having regular eye exams if you have diabetes, whatever your physician recommends, but that's important to catching changes in the eye early with diabetes.
Okay, for your art, does either of you have a study that you want us to be aware of that you'd like people to enroll in?
I don't at the moment. Right now, we're largely in retrospective studies, trying to find this association in the populations. But I think that's something we'd like to go to in the future. So I'll have to keep this panel in mind so we can make them more aware of it in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also don't have anything going right now, but I know there are a couple other studies that have to do with diabetes. Well, one with diabetes and one with age-related macular degeneration through the CVNR. So definitely check that out through the CVNR registry. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is a
And-
question here that talks about diet and eye pressure. I know diet affects diabetes, but does diet affect eye pressure at all?
Not to my knowledge, at least that's been tested thoroughly. It doesn't mean that there is no association, because what you eat definitely has a role on, things throughout your body. So I wouldn't rule it out as a possibility, especially because when you think that what you eat can lead to hypertension, which obviously directly affects blood pressure. And then eventually may affect pressure in the eye as well. So it might be a very long time the diet would lead to changes in eye pressure, but maybe even Jeff Boatright has more to add on that.
Diet?
All right. Well, Dr. Boatright is.
I'm on a seafood diet. When I see food, I eat it. So I'm not a good example. But yes, there are actually quite a lot of diet studies out there that link certainly vision and dietary changes.
All right. Well, Dr. Boatright, I believe you are a co-host, so you can share your screen. He's going to be talking about exercise and vision.
Okay, thank you guys very much for inviting me. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Everything working okay?
Yes.
All right, thanks. So I know we're running late, so I'm going to probably skip some slides. Don't worry about it. You're not really missing anything on the things that I skip. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some of the research that we're looking at effects of exercise on vision. And we start in humans, we go to mice, and we go back to humans. And we do have a study going, and I'll have a little enrollment thing at the end. Okay, so some time ago, we were all sitting around having lunch, which is mainly what scientists, I think, do. We cruise the internet and have lunch and chat. This is before the pandemic. And some of our colleagues at the CVNR, Bruce Crossan, Keith McGregor, and Joe Nocera, they just published a paper showing that exercising on stationary bicycles, like what you see down here, was very protective to brain function. It's probably not a surprise at all to this group. You guys have probably heard a lot about this. Exercise is good for your brain. Well, Michelle Pardue and I were sitting at that table too. And Michelle says, well, gee, since the retina is also part of the brain, is exercise beneficial to the retina and to vision? Okay, so might seem obvious to you guys, but at the time, people kind of laughed at us when we asked that question. But anyway, we started down this path very simply. Both of us we collaborate a lot on mouse research. And so, of course, first thing we thought was, let's go exercise some mice. And so we got this little mouse bicycle that, I'm kidding, we actually got this treadmill that we found in a closet down at Old Crawford Long Hospital. We started running mice on it. And you can see that we're not running these mice very hard. They're just kind of plodding along. It's 10 meters per minute per hour. So 1 hour a day. They're plodding along 5 days a week. We gave them the weekend off. We also ran some mice on wheels. We wanted to see if that had an effect. And here, this is just voluntary. The mice get on and they love running. Mice love running. They get on, they go. Then they'll get off and they'll get back on and they'll run some more. It's kind of like human interval training, okay? And some mice will run 9 miles a night. I mean, they'll really go. Other mice don't run so much, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So we had, of course, we wanted to stress the eyes on these mice so that we could try to look for a difference, right? And so a lot of mice, if you put them in front of bright lights for an hour or so, they'll actually start a retinal degeneration that's somewhat similar to age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. So a lot of you guys might be familiar with AMD. A lot of people have it. It kind of comes on with age, right? And it's kind of like the Alzheimer's of the retina. And this is the first rig we set up. No expense was spared. A couple of desk lamps, and the mice are sitting there inside of their cages. And then after that, we run some mice on, like I said, on these different wheels or treadmills, and we expose them to bright light to start the retinal degeneration. And then we wanted to measure their retinal function. And we actually use a device that's the same thing as what we use in the clinic. We're looking for the electroretinogram. It's kind of like an EKG for the retina. So we put these contact lenses on the mouse or the rat, and we slide them into this ball that actually is a big light. And it's the same thing we use in the clinic. And then this ball will flash a very bright light. And when it does that, you get this trace right here. And you get this this dip. Oops, sorry, get that dip called the A wave, and then we get this rise called the B wave. And that's kind of a healthy response, okay? That's what you're looking for, is healthy. And if it's not healthy, it gets flatter and flatter, okay? So this is some of the experimental results. And I want you to look at this gray trace up here. You see, this is where you get this big dip and then this rise. You get, that's a big ERG waveform. That's a very healthy eye. But down here, this animal was an animal that was undergoing a retinal degeneration. So he's not seeing too well. And you see how that's flat. It's bumpy, but it's not like this one up here. And this animal, it's under retinal degeneration, and it was not running on the treadmills. This animal, the red one, it was running on the treadmill. And you see that its ERG trace is actually quite a lot bigger. Okay, it's not as big as the animal that's healthy, but it's better than the blue one. Okay, in fact, it might not look that big a deal, but when you look across a whole group of these animals, some that have been run on treadmills and some that not, you'll see the ones that weren't run on treadmills, they don't have a lot of vision. This is looking at their averages, that A wave and that B wave. But the animals that run on the treadmill, they've got a much bigger A wave and much bigger B wave. Those animals are seeing well. If they were the equivalent of a human being, he'd never even go into the clinic because he or she would think, I see fine, no need to go to the eye doc. Okay, and this is some more measures. We're showing that here that the retina actually gets thinner on the animals that are undergoing degeneration. And we're using a special camera. It's the same kind of camera that we use in the clinic with human beings. And the point here is that under the normal eyes are represented by these bars. That's their thickness, but they get thin if they're undergoing the degeneration. But if the mice were run on a treadmill, we prevent that loss. Okay, so we have functional preservation and we have morphological preservation. So the retina is there, it's intact, and it's working well. We also find that using a different camera, again, it's a camera that we use in the clinic with humans, we're looking here for, inflammation. And here's, like on the left, here's a normal eye, and in the middle is a degenerating eye. And you see all those white spots? That's signs of inflammation. And as you know, inflammation can be a bad thing. Well, animals that run on the treadmill, they have a lot less of those white spots. And that, by the way, white spot is a technical term. And this is just a quantification of that, showing that the red is the degenerating eye. There's an enormous number of white dots, lots of inflammation, and we block that when the animal runs on the treadmill or on the running wheels. So basically, running protects the retina and vision in these mice, and we've done this in a ton of different mouse models and some rat models, and Rachael Allen did some in the diabetic rat and found protection with exercise. We did find that running faster or longer does not improve the protection. So you get this threshold effect. And as near as we can tell, I mean, mice are not humans and humans are not mice, but as near as we can tell, roughly, if you just get out every day and do a brisk 20 to 30 minute walk, that is really going to help your retina and vision. Now, the real take home message here is just don't be a couch potato. I mean, just get out every day and do something. I'm not talking like, just coming back exhausted or anything. I'm saying come back feeling invigorated. If you do that every day, I think it's really going to help your retina and your vision. Now, regardless of these animal studies that again started with human studies, regardless of any of their nuances, we thought all this was encouraging enough to go back into humans with this. And so this is a very busy slide, but the only point here at all is that some of the folks that were originally involved in the early human work, Joe and Osara, and then later on the mouse work, Michelle Pardue and me, with our postdoc, Katie Bills, we've started a clinical study, a human study, where we're recruiting veterans with AMD, veterans and other people. So folks here that aren't veterans are also eligible here. And we're going right back to the bicycles, the stationary bicycles, and we've recruited a few people. And this slide's busy. The only point here is this is Katie. She is modeling one of our devices we use to measure your visual function. And you can see it's portable because of the pandemic. We're taking this on the road. We are delivering stationary bikes to people in their homes. And then we'll come in and do visual assessments with some of our portable devices. And this is our little flyer we have for the study. If you're interested in it, there's some information down here. Other folks here on the panel can help you get signed up if you're interested. And then these are the people who do all the work. I sit around and do what I'm doing right now and gas on and on. These folks actually do the real work. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Boatright. So as we have repeatedly said, exercise is neuroprotective. And what our guests will continually state is, well, how much exercise should I be doing? How much? Not vigorous, too vigorous, what frequency to be neuroprotective?
So, that's a really good question because, everybody's different. And there actually are people that have some conditions where, really intense weightlifting or really, really intense exercising can up your, the pressures in your eye momentarily. And so for people who have glaucoma, you might want to watch out for that, but this is really rare. Usually there's not that much that I'm aware of that are negative effects. And again, what I'm talking about, the amount of exercise I'm talking about is really the standard get out every day 20 to 30 minutes and do a nice hard walk around the neighborhood, not anything crazy at all.
Okay, and will you go back to your slide with the contact information? Everyone's asking how to join the study.
Sure. Let's see. Can you guys see
And
that?
there's a telephone number. I would repeat it for the people that are listening only.
Okay. You want me to repeat it? Sure.
Yes, please.
It's 404-321-6111. Okay, now that's, I believe, the general switchboard at the VA. Then you're going to have to enter an extension, which is 207099. Now, having said that, it's fine if you guys want to just email me, Jeff Boatright at emory.edu, or any, basically any of these other names floating around here in terms of panelists will be able to direct you to Katie, the postdoc. Is that helpful?
Yes, very. Okay. Okay, Andrew posted the information and Lisa also gave everyone the website. Okay, so everyone give, if you can, a virtual round of applause to all of our colleagues from the CVNR. We're so excited to have them join us, and it's always an honor to collaborate and feature our scientists here in the metro area. So we have two more presentations. We always feature our healthy aging study each week. So Whit, come on in, give us an update about our healthy aging study, and then Matt is going to talk about the cognitive empowerment program.
All right. Hello, everybody. For those that are attending here for the first time, my name is Whit. I'm the communication specialist for the Emory Healthy Aging Study. And I always like to share my screen and just kind of walk folks through the really cool opportunity here on how you get signed up and registered with our study, because it's a little different from some of the others that you might be expecting. In the sense that our study is actually done entirely online. And let me find my window here. There we go. So hopefully you should be able to see my browser window up here now. And I'm going to point out that URL, that healthyaging.emory.edu. So the Emory Healthy Aging Study, as I mentioned, being an online study, we are really trying to better understand how we age and what causes certain age-related disease. And we're doing that by asking our participants to complete their online health history questionnaire once a year. It takes most folks about 30 minutes to do. And that information also helps us identify potential candidates that might be a great fit for one of our Alzheimer's focused sub-studies, the Emory Healthy Brain Study. But I like to show off this page here because this is very important. This is where it all begins, and this is how you get started by visiting our website here and clicking on this big yellow button in the top right-hand corner where it says join the study. It takes 4 steps. So we go through a registration, we'll do an online consent, we get a little bit of contact information from you, and finally it takes you through that health history questionnaire where we're going to start asking you things about, for example, how much exercise are you getting? Are you eating your fruits and vegetables? What kind of medications or pre-existing, medical conditions do you have? all of these pieces of information are, again, painting a bigger picture for us as we try to better understand how we age and what causes some of those age-related diseases. And then at the end of each year, what we try to do with our annual reports is we pull that data together and we look at, here's kind of where you might stand as far as some of your questionnaire responses. And we also publish the research or share the research that's published by any of our other researchers. So I'm gonna drop my name and my email address into the chat box there. I encourage you, if you have any questions about participation, or if you think you may be signed up, but you're not really sure, please just send me an email. I'll be happy to work with you one-on-one.
Thank you, Whit.
Thank you.
And we would love to have 100% participation from everyone watching and listening today. If you are not a part of the Healthy Aging Study, it is very, very easy to do from the comfort of your home. So we would encourage you today to take the time, set aside, and be a part of the Healthy Aging Study, okay? All right, Matt, what is going to happen today with the Cognitive Empowerment Program?
So in a few minutes, we're going to be starting our CP Community Live, very similar to BrainTalk Live, and we're going to be doing a workout today with our physical therapist, Tony. And yeah, so please join. If you'd like to join for another workout, kind of keep that blood flowing, I just posted a link in chat where you can register for the event. It's going to start in a few minutes, and I hope to see you guys there.
Excellent. All right. Did you take notes today? Did you write down all of this great information? I hope when we see you next week, you're going to report back and say, oh, I signed up with the exercise study with the VA, because you do not have to be a veteran to participate, or I signed up for the Healthy Aging Study. And Dr. Parker, come on and tell them, we're going to be opening up our research efforts here pretty soon.
Sure. We are, as long as the COVID-19 rate is decreasing in Georgia, we will soon be back in business in terms of face-to-face visits and face-to-face programs. So as soon as we get the go-ahead, we'll be meeting face-to-face. We are beginning interviews and other things before we have people come into the center. But if you're interested in Emory Healthy Aging, as Whit has indicated, please fill out your online questionnaire. As time goes on, you're going to hear more and more about what studies we have available. Right now, I guess we're ready for Matt Doiron. I don't want to get into his time, but please sign up. Easy way is Emory Healthy Aging online, and they will call you for additional studies as time and input is available. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Okay, it is 2:59 again. Remember, the session is being recorded. We'll send out a link of the video recording, and then we will send out a PDF of the slide deck so you can reference that information. Also, be sure to share this information with your family, your friends. I know people are joining us from all over the country and even the world. We have people celebrating this unprecedented time by engaging in information and sharing. And so thank you for joining us. We will be back here next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we look forward to seeing you there. The exercise link. Okay, it's in the chat. Let's see here. Can someone repost for Miss Gloria? Okay. Thank you. All right. Thanks for joining us. We will see you back here next Tuesday.